Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, Dearjames, and together with the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. And welcome, Colleen. And of course, we have big energies playing out. So, literally at this moment. And as above, so below. There's a cosmic dance going on. And so let's just jump into it because there is so much to cover. So, our main themes: the dance, divine messengers of change, Jupiter, Pluto, Mercury. Oh my, I'm going to add that in. Comet CHING Atlas, truth and understanding, and these peaks and valleys, these peak encounters. Welcome, Olivia. And I'm going to jump right to from the main themes into the main energies. Welcome, Alicia. So it's a 10-month, all month long, treading, cautious advance. The 9, small restraint, surrender. And surrender, please remember, to surrender to yourself, to your soul source connection, is the most empowering thing you can do. You are not surrendering to someone else outside of yourself, and you are not, quote unquote, giving up. You're simply surrendering your ego, mind, personality to your soul. Very important. Welcome, Gate Girl. It's an 8-year all year long, so we're uniting from the inside out. We have 18, it's decay, remedy. We're continuing to repair what's been spoiled. And so, again, within personal lives, relationships, things of that nature, all the way out to the macro, the whole of the whole. And then it doubles up again as a 9, small restraint, surrender. So we have this messaging of doubling down with that 9 of small restraint, surrender. Now, the astrological influences. On 10-2, we had the new moon solar eclipse with that beautiful grand trine at 10 degrees and all those 10s. Then today, on the 9th, Jupiter stations retrograde, and this is where the dance comes in. This is our main theme, the dance, which I'll come to in a moment. But in essence, so Jupiter is stationing retrograde. 2 days later, Pluto stations direct. So this kind of dance, this crisscross of these two major outer planets. And then on the 13th, we have Mercury entering Scorpio. So as we're looking at this, let's go to our main theme, the dance. Divine messengers of change. And in this image, you see, this, it's just beautiful and iconic. These 5 women, there 2 of them, 4 of them are in 2 sets, like in a set of pairs, and there's one in the center standing alone. But in essence, they're dancing this very rhythmic, beautiful, and you see it, it's at sunset. So there's all this orange and everything, this burning umber orange against the white. Now I'm going to shift for a second and show you a second image of this, which is the same image, the dance, divine messengers of change. And these same 5 women, beautiful. But now on the far right, you see the one pair almost twirling Jupiter. On the far left, the other 2 twirling Pluto. And in the center is this comet CHING, and then with Mercury. And so this cosmic dance, these 2 major planets, one's going to spin retrograde, the other one is going to spin direct. Mercury, the way we communicate, we think, our words, our thoughts, and so forth. And then this first time in 80 years, comet. So, and it's known as the Purple Mountain. So CHING means Purple Mountain. So we'll come to this, but there's a cosmic dance going on along with this comet. And that's why these powers are so powerful, prevalent. And we're going to have peaks and valleys you'll see in the astrological chart. And let me just go back to say, it's about truth and understanding. So with these energies and these shifts, it is bringing truth and understanding to the forefront. No longer, there is so much disinformation going on. And there is so much knee-jerk reaction taking place where people are literally obfuscating their responsibility to use their intellect, their mind, their soul, their heart. It's so cheap and easy to pick up something on social media and regurgitate it out. And that ripple effect, realize that what you're doing in that moment, because you're not taking the time to investigate, to discern, is it truth? Is it real? To understand it before you take a position and before you disseminate it out again. So again, be very mindful, especially at this moment. Be mindful. Major players, Pluto, Jupiter, Mercury, this comet, of which wolf you're feeding, of what you're contributing to. So that, because when it's easily debunked and yet you've, trafficked in lies versus truth, it speaks volumes about who you are. Your character is your fate. So be mindful in these moments. Be really mindful. So let's jump in. We're going to work with Pam Youngin. She's an astrologer, amazing astrologer. It's her North Point journal. And she says, Jupiter and Pluto. We are feeling the influence of Jupiter and Pluto very strongly right now. Both planets come to a standstill and change direction this week. Jupiter stations retrograde today on Wednesday the 9th, and Pluto stations direct on Friday the 11th. Welcome, Ava. The date of a planet's station is significant because its impact on our lives is magnified for at least a week before and after that date. So the intensity, it's like the analogy of the train. When a train comes in, you feel the vibration and the energy. It's very strong and empowered as it's coming, as they station in or leave. And then it dissipates the further away the train gets from the station. Jupiter and Gemini. With Jupiter and Aries Gemini, we may be inundated with information this week. Since Jupiter is at full strength this week, the effects of any aspects involving the giant planet are heightened. Of special note is the Jupiter Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, and it's what we're looking to heal, how we can heal. So there's of special note is the Jupiter Chiron sextile. That's a harmonious aspect in astrology that perfects on Saturday, October 12th. This is the same day, by the way, that the comet will be nearest Earth on the 12th. This beneficial aspect helps us gain insights into the insecurities and fears that have prevented us from claiming our truth and speaking our inner wisdom. It's only fear, and dare I say, and I don't mean this in a derogatory manner, but ignorance. When we're being ignorant, we're not invested, we're not doing the work necessary to discern truth, and we just take the cheap and easy route, it negatively impacts us, our wisdom, who we are as a peoples, as humanity. And so traffic in truth. Period. End of story. No matter what team you're cheering for, no matter what truth you might be looking for, when truth speaks, it speaks for itself. And we must be willing to do what's necessary to discern the truth so that we're not trafficking in lies. The aspect also holds the space for us to heal those wounds. So this beneficial aspect between Jupiter, the sextile between Jupiter and Chiron, that aspect also holds the space for us to heal all these wounds, which may have been with us since childhood. So again, instead of reacting, respond. Be proactive, not reactive. It's really important with these major planets changing directions. Pluto and Capricorn, Pam goes on to say, Pluto is in the final weeks of its journey through Capricorn. Its station this week will be the last one in this sign until it returns to Capricorn in the year 2254. So we've been talking about, not since the industrial American and revolutions has Pluto been in Aquarius, right? So it is leaving Capricorn now, and it will not be back till 2254. Perhaps most significant about this Pluto station is that the planet is in its very last degree of the sign. We've talked about this, the anaretic degree. It's a very powerful degree. It's the 29th degree in astrology. In this critical final degree, a planet is known to be finishing up the work it has intended to complete during its transit of the sign. Since we know that Pluto's task in Capricorn has been to reveal the shadow side of businesses, governments, and other hierarchical social structures, we can expect even more revelations this week and next, because it's stationing. And this is the mandrakes from, the Harry Potter, where Pluto has gone back. It's ripping it's ripping us to our core. It is just shaking us free of all of the old. And it's discomfort. Again, we've used this analogy. When you transplant, a flower, a plant or something that you get and you put it into a pot, it goes into shock for a little bit. It has a moment, a week, 10 days-ish, before it flowers, really thrives and blooms. It's the same thing here. So Pluto's task in Capricorn is to reveal the shadow, is to shake the crud out of the roots, because we're being transplanted into this larger, greater container, the container of Aquarius, the Aquarian age, Pluto in Aquarius. Pam goes on to say, all aspects involving Pluto this week should be especially dramatic. Most noteworthy is the Mercury-Pluto square that perfects next Sunday, this coming Sunday on the 13th. This aspect will likely escalate the war of words, verbal power struggles, accusations, and manipulations of the facts. Traffic in truth. The mind tends to be suspicious, looking for threats around every corner and getting caught up in conspiracy theories. We may also see secrets revealed or mysteries solved during this time, since the drive for truth is quite strong. And so again, when they see you, your digital footprint, your social footprint is an impression of you, and it speaks volumes. So allow it to speak truth, not lies, not innuendo, not shadow, not conspiracy theories, because again, it's too easy to fall into that trap. These major planets are asking us, and with the dance with Pluto and Jupiter, and this divine messengers of change, which has to do with the comet, what the unseen said, the first thing the unseen said was looking back, because Jupiter's retrograding. Pluto has been retrograding, it's going forward. So looking back, we find gold, the gold within. So what's required of us in this moment is to take a beat, stop, search out the truth, look at multiple sources to discern truth, and then traffic in truth. To do anything less than that, you're doing a massive disservice to yourself, to your relationships, and to literally the whole of the whole. Because that damage, whatever is put out, ripples out. It's all energy. And so with this, we have this moment and this opportunity to heal, to discern, to be greater, better, to be who we truly are. Pam goes on to say, Pam Youngin, on a personal level, while we are drawn to be very forthright and direct in our communications while Mercury and Pluto are square, we should be aware that words have great power. This is where they ripple out. Wounds inflicted under this influence could take considerable time to heal. So again, when we're just cavalier and reckless and lazy, ignorant, the wounds that inflicts can take considerable time to heal, because it is reflecting, it is demonstrating, it is exposing an aspect of ourselves that needs healing. And we have a choice. We can choose to be proactive in our healing, to be proactive with Jupiter and Chiron, this sextile of, let me recognize this in myself and heal it. The moon will form hard aspects with both Jupiter and Pluto this week, and thus will be activating the energies of these planets. So the moon reveals, the moon reflects, the moon reveals what's hidden. And so again, and the moon is emotion. So again, there's going to be a lot of opportunity here for us to be very mindful of our actions, our words, our deeds, our character. Which wolf are we feeding? And hopefully we are proactive in those choices. It is also important to note that with Jupiter in Gemini and Pluto squaring Mercury, the planetary ruler of Gemini, all areas ruled by the sign are likely to dominate our awareness this week. These areas include communications, the media, the airwaves, transportation, travel, technology and networking, mental health, and the nervous system. So you can see the cacophony of what's happening on our news channels and televisions and social medias and everything can overwhelm the system, which is why instead of just jumping on the bandwagon, you got to take that beat, discern, step back, investigate, educate, inform, so that when you speak, it's not something that's going to take considerable time to heal. It's something that uplifts, encourages, informs in a positive manner, a truthful manner. And here's where we come to the comet. So it's known as Comet C 2023A3. That's the technical, but it's also more familiarly known as Comet CHIRON Atlas. It is making its first visit to Earth in 80,000 years. The comet, which was discovered in early 2023, will be at its closest proximity to our planet, to the planet Earth, on October 12th. This week, those in the northern hemisphere may be able to see the comet with the naked eye before sunrise. Ancient cultures have differing interpretations of the meaning of a comet. Some considered them to be divine messengers, while others saw comets as being omens of natural disasters or other cataclysmic events. One can say Hurricane, God, it just went out of my head, the one that is getting ready to affect Florida. We just had Helene. So here's natural disasters or cataclysmic events. But there was also this aspect, what stood out for me when I was reviewing all of this was divine messengers of change, and thus the main theme, this beautiful, the dance, divine messengers of change. And recognize and realize that this dance, thank you, Alicia, Milton, Hurricane Milton. So we're having that same cosmic dance within ourselves and this opportunity of divine messengers of change. So we have this ability to change in a divine way or in a catastrophic way, a cataclysmic way. The choice is up to us. Which wolf are you feeding? The general agreement is that comets bring with them a powerful energy and information from the far reaches of the solar system. They are associated with times of significant change, much like an eclipse. And we've just come off of that, Colleen saying, hopefully in the divine. Exactly. It's a choice. Choose the divine. Choose the higher octave. Choose truth. Choose to traffic in truth. Because the truth, it's the old idiom, the truth shall set you free. It's simple. It speaks for itself. It is what it is. And you don't get caught up in the chaos and the minutia and the manure or the cataclysmic events that in an individual micro sense we bring upon ourselves. So we're either bringing cataclysmic events upon ourselves or divine messengers of change, this divinity upon ourselves. And it depends on which wolf we feed. So, because number 2 from the unseen, The mystical, magical abound. Ready for takeoff? Question mark. Blast off! Exclamation points. So there's an opportunity here because these are divine messengers of change from the far reaches. It's from the unseen. First time in 80,000 years? I mean, the epic, and of course, Jupiter and Pluto, this happens every, one of them I think is 7 years. The other is, I believe, 12 years-ish. Perhaps it's 20. I think Pluto is 20. So, I mean, okay, it's not 80,000. They're outer planets that change more regularly, but not like the inner personal planets like the moon, the sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus. So we're going to go to our next astrologer because I'm setting the stage for all of this for a reason so that when we get to number 4 from the unseen, we're going to unpack it. So this is it's an excerpt from Astrology by Lauren, another incredible astrologer. She says, on October 9th, today, Jupiter will station at 21 degrees of Gemini for its retrograde phase, which lasts until February 4th. It can sometimes feel as if opportunities for abundance are being withdrawn or promises for growth, expansion, or promotion are put on hold when Jupiter is in its retrograde phase. And if that does become the case, know that this is only temporary. For whenever Jupiter stations, whether that be the retrograde station or the direct station, so whether it's stationing retrograde like it's going to do today, or whether it's going to be stationing direct on the 4th of February in 2025, it is accompanied by a trine to the sun. A trine is a harmonious aspect, filling us with a sense of hope and possibility for the future and reminding us where and how we are still on track. So Jupiter is the great benefic. It is the Lord of the cosmos, if you will. And thus, when it takes its sojourn, its rest, or its reversal, remember again, looking back, we find gold, the gold within. So while we may experience expansion and positive aspects and wonderful things, quote unquote, externally, the emphasis, the light is being shown upon the interior, the gold within at this time with Jupiter going retrograde. This is not so much about the withdrawal of abundance as it is a redirect. For instead of looking for the fulfillment of our happiness outwardly, we are being asked to look for the source of our happiness and bounty within. If we think that all of our happiness is dependent on external things, then that is where we will look for it. However, for the 4 months of the year that Jupiter is in its retrograde phase, we are being asked to look within to the very root source of joy itself. So we're going to the heart of the matter, to the root. And our joy, our happiness, our abundance, our life force, everything is our soul source connection. It comes from within. And thus Jupiter always trines the sun when it's going retrograde or direct. Jupiter is our search for truth and understanding. And during these retrograde periods, we are asked to reconcile what we are seeing, hearing, and learning with our own inner knowing. This is where we must take responsibility and accountability for our words, our actions, our deeds, our character. Because again, they're out there. They will be seen. And it's our inner knowing, it's our soul source connection that guides us to true north. So once again, instead of looking for all the answers in the outer world, we are being asked to look for confirmation within. In this way, Jupiter is also our moral barometer. And again, morals, our moral barometers. Our morals, they lie in our heart center. They're not up in our head. That's ego, mind, personality. That can be arrogance and hubris and entitlement and all the shadow stuff. But our morals, our character, it's in our center. It's what guides us. And thus, these annual retrograde phases of Jupiter are very important for our spiritual, moral, and philosophical growth. and anything that will further this is greatly advised. That can include embarking on a spiritual journey or going on retreats, but with the understanding that the answers are not necessarily found on the side of a mountain or from someone or somewhere on the other side of the world. They can inspire you to search for the answers within. However, it's always an inside job. It will always be left up to each one of us to take responsibility, to do what's necessary to find truth and understanding. But ultimately, the answers are not going to be found outside of us, but in the still spiritual center that lies deep within your soul. And as Jupiter appears to stand still or station at 21 degrees of Gemini, it simultaneously makes an enduring sextile with our wounded healer Chiron, and none too soon. Due to the station of Jupiter, this sextile, which is already evident in September, perfects on October 12th, and again November 2nd, and continues through December. It will repeat one more time next spring. So we have multiple opportunities to heal these wounds, to not cause or inflict future wounds. Be mindful of your actions. Traffic in truth. The dance. Divine messengers of change. Because it's either cataclysmic activity or divine activity. And we have multiple opportunities to heal. It's Jupiter and Chiron. This is an aspect of healing. Lauren goes on to say, however, sextiles are not aspects of action, they are aspects of opportunity. So this is an opportunity to do something. It's an opportunity to look within. Therefore, these aspects could just come and go with little to show for them. Yet if we were to make even the slightest effort in a certain direction during the sextiles, from now through December and again next spring, we will receive the guidance, help, and advice that is sorely missing at this time. Doors open with sextiles, but we need to make the effort to walk through them. The onus is on us to be responsible, to take the right courses of action, to discern truth and understanding. Colleen is saying there are too many in this country that do not understand that. And yes, and that's why the unseen, and here at Weekly Wisdom and Insights and the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, they are imploring us to make the effort to recognize what is amiss within ourselves and the world, and to not contribute to it. To contribute to it it elongates your suffering. It causes harm to others. That's not the legacy you want. It's not the way you want others to see you. One would hope that we want to be seen as divine humans that uplift one another, that assist one another, and that we do so in a positive manner, in a healed manner. Lauren goes on to say, we are heading into some challenging weather over the next few weeks and months. The warrior god Mars has been amping up the temperature and will continue to do so through to the full moon. That's coming up on the 17th of October. Mars will square the solar eclipse on October 2nd and will also square the full moon on the 17th. And it won't stop there. The heat is rising. So, connecting to the Jupiter-Chiron sextile will not only be for our own sakes, but for the sake of all beings everywhere. So see, Mars is upping the ante and upping the heat. Because again, the unseen said many shows ago, we're drawing a line in the sand. You're being seen. You're being counted. Which wolf are you feeding? So when the temperature is hot, when there's a cacophony of crud on social media and, news channels and so forth, Mars, we have the ability and the opportunity to sit with Jupiter, the Lord of the cosmos, the great benefic, Chiron, the wounded healer, and to stop and say, I see this, but I need not contribute to it. I need not lather myself in muck. I need not join the heat of that dumpster fire, is the way I would put it. There's something greater. It's Jupiter. There's something that can be healed. It's Chiron. There's the Purple Mountain Comet, CHING, Atlas. All of these things amplifying which wolf we feed, what we receive from it. And Astrology by Lauren, she closed out with this. It's an Ojibwe prayer that was edited by Maggie Oman. Grandfather, look at our brokenness. We know that in all creation, only the human family has strayed from the sacred way. We know that we are the ones who are divided, and we are the ones who must come back together to walk in the sacred way. Grandfather, Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor, that we may heal the earth and heal each other. There's no greater act, opportunity, or gift, outcome, than to return to the way and to heal not only ourselves, but Mother Earth in the process. To do that, we must be that. So again, the dance, divine messengers of change. Looking back, we find gold, the gold within. There are mystical, magical moments that are abounding. Are we ready for them? Are we ready to take off? Blast off. Because number 3 from the unseen, it's about truth and understanding. It's not about lies and hate and division and just this cataclysmic dumpster fire, this cacophony of crud that's being put out for consumption that harms us, that harms you, that harms the ideal of oneness, unity, harmony, goodness, balance. And so number 3 from the unseen, truth and understanding, finding your way back to center and finding your way to center. So some may just be a little bit off course, or the cacophony of stuff, maybe a little wobbling or whatever. So it's finding your way to center. For others that are further out, further from the light, it's truth and understanding, finding your way back to center. Both are applicable. So now let's look. Let me know how this is resonating in the comments with all of you. We're going to look at the astrological chart. And very important, because in the center, you see these 3 peaks. And there's a 9 below one, there's an 8 below the other, or above, pardon me, there's a 9 above the top peak, 8 above the next peak down, and then a 7 next to that peak. So those are the peaks. And then at the valleys, at the opposite end, you see them in the first house, the second house, and the third house. So what this said to me, and let me just give you a quick understanding. The first house in astrology represents the self. It represents the ego, mind, personality, the identity. The second house is the house of value. So it's our possessions, our money, material things. The third house is the house of communication. It's ruled by Mercury, Gemini. It's how we, again, how our thoughts, our words, and so forth. The 7th house is the house of relationships, how we interact with one another, whether platonic, romantic, business, whatever it may be. It's the house of relationships. The 8th house is the house of resurrection. It can also be of other people's money. So it's about our legacies and so forth as well. And then the 9th house is the house of spirituality. So philosophy, greater wisdom. So this is what the houses represent. What this was saying to me, and it came from, and it's number 4, so it's foundational, from the unseen. And I heard the word like peaks and valleys. And so again, with this, the dance with Jupiter stationing retrograde, and that's what this astrological chart is for. It would change minorly by Friday for Pluto, then going direct. So in essence, it's applying for both. So here's this cosmic dance, the dance, peaks and valleys. And then I heard, no rest for the weary. There is no rest for the weary. And that brought up, it triggered for me this awareness. And I said, I know this about the weary. So Matthew 11, 28, 12. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So in essence, this is saying, give your burdens, whether they be emotional, mental, um, physical, whatever they may be, give them over to God. Give them over to the unseen, to Allah, Buddha, the all that is, however you identify. Give them over. Remember and recognize the one relationship we come into this life with and we leave with is our soul source connection, the unseen. And that's what this verse is reminding us, that give over your burdens, come to me with them, and I'll walk with you. It's footprints in the sand. We're never walking alone. With that, and I'll come to the comments coming in, then the second aspect of this was there's also this no rest for the weary. It was changed, there was a modification. And it says the now familiar version of the saying, no rest for the wicked, is recorded in a 1574 translation of a sermon by John Calvin. In Christian theology, the passage is interpreted as meaning that unrepentant sinners, the wicked, will meet with damnation upon death. No peace, no rest. Okay. The point here would be, again, your character is your fate. We are either trafficking in truth, in light, or you're trafficking in lies or darkness. The unseen, God, the all that is, the unseen walks with us. It is the relationship we come in with and leave with. We are never alone. Never in this lifetime. In this physical existence, we are never not together with Source, God, Source, the all that is, the unseen. That soul source connection, that relationship. And so when we face challenges, seek that relationship. It's not mental. It's knowing. It's maternal. It's a knowingness inside. It's that soul source connection. The opposite then is when we simply traffic in ego, mind, personality. That is the one where it's like there's no rest for the wicked. You hear about monkey mind, you hear about chatter. I can't take off, I can't get my mind to shut off. But if we're trafficking in illusion, in darkness, in lies, in shadow, it only magnifies it. It makes it louder. So clearly that wouldn't be the answer. There's no rest, no peace. That is not the way to go. The way to go to Source. Go to Source. Go to the truth, to the heart of the matter. Stillness, quiet. That requires us to turn off the ego, mind, personality, the mind, and say, let me go to my heart. Let me find what's true. And how we can apply that to the literal examples that we've been talking about with what's happening on the news and social media and so forth. And again, it doesn't matter. What we should be able to be greater than the identity or the label or the script, the thing that we're attaching ourselves to. If what we're attaching ourselves to is not in our highest and best, is not speaking truth, is not good, we should have the absolute divinity and divine willpower to recognize that truth and step back from it. Equally, if it is aligned, we should be able to put that forth in a positive manner, a way that may be received openly. Let it speak for itself. In other words, it's not attached with judgment or I told you so, or because that's a negative aspect. It's a shadow aspect. When we simply place it, here's the truth. It speaks for itself. We don't need to yell and scream from the rooftops. So Ava was saying Mars can also be a noble knight acting as a peacemaker. I believe Mars in Cancer is a sensitive masculine energy. Beautifully, I concur, Ava. And again, it doesn't have to be so. While Mars is elevating the heat, if you will, the intensity, again, it doesn't mean that that heat being raised is nefarious. To Ava's point, which I concur wholeheartedly, and with Mars in Cancer, it's speaking to the greatness of Mars, the intensity, the purity of the intensity of Mars, meaning what's on offer to us, not aggression, but the purest of divine masculine, chivalry, good. It's actionary, it's pure, it's sensitive, it's understanding, it has empathy and compassion. Beautiful ad, Ava, thank you. Olivia, businesses have been really difficult lately, especially when young people talking down to those of us who are older. There's an interpretation gap, both from, look at the dance, this dance, Jupiter, Pluto, to Olivia's point, young and old, and how we see one another, how we understand truth and understanding. So again, the opportunity, Jupiter, Chiron, the opportunity is to heal these illusions, because that is what they are. They're illusions that the elderly, if you will, the older generations have no value or don't know what they're talking about. And equally, that the younger generations don't know what they're talking about. They don't have any experience. They don't know what they're talking about. Both are divine. Both come with a knowing, with a soul source connection. Both, when not in judgment of one another or the other, or of self. Well, what do the two, when they come together, oh, there's magic. Mystical magic abounds. Because it's, what does this generation know? What does this generation know? And how do we collectively rise to meet the occasion, to rise and meet the moment? That's what's on offer here for all of us. It has been there since time immemorial, since time began. Because it's number 5, and there's more to number 4, so we'll come. But number 5 from the unseen is make room for change. Embrace change. It's a very strong message. Number 5, it denotes change. So make room for change. This is about emptying our vessels. We've spoken about this and how we have this opportunity to bridge the gap, as opposed to stand at two polar ends, to Olivia's and she's saying surrendering is key. Exactly. We surrender to ourselves so we can all sit at the table. We have a place at the table and we can hear one another. Because we all are divine, which means just because we're the newbie, the young soul or the young generation, doesn't mean that we are not connected to source and that we are looking, 7 decades into the future. Equally true is those that came before, that came 7 decades prior, or whatever, 5 decades prior. They too came with wisdom and knowledge for this moment, for this harmony, this peaceful transfer of power, this beautiful ceremony, gift, and the ever, turning wheel of eternity and towards a purpose of evolution, ascendance. It's not about going into some dumpster pit fire. I mean, that can be, that's there. It's spoken about, the lake of fire and everything. But that isn't what we should aspire to. We should be aspiring to eternity in a whole new world, a whole new way of being that's technicolor, and it's amazing and it's harmonious and there's unity, there's oneness. Why on earth choose the lake of fire? It defies logic for me. Um, let us look very quickly. I want to give you a small snippet from moonomens.com. While Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of the twins, Gemini, we are invited to reflect on what meaning we attribute to words, thoughts, data, and information. Refine our ability to communicate our truth clearly and thoughtfully, and make sure we are expressing ourselves authentically. So, this is again, when we're in a state of ignorance or shallowness, or we're reactive, all of the opportunities that Jupiter retrograde in Gemini is offering, they're not present within we're not invoking them, we're not utilizing them, we're not harnessing them. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini is an opportunity to rethink our approach to learning, studying, teaching, sharing information, consuming information, communicating, thinking, and making sense of our experiences. It truly goes to the heart of the matter. And you can choose, we get to choose whatever we want. We are beings of free will. However, the unseen, and again, individuals, people, places, things, corporations, institutions, governments, this moment, this dance, the dance, divine messengers of change, they're saying to us, higher octave, dumpster fire, lake of fire. Choose. The Sabian symbols, and let me just go to our mantra very quickly. I surrender to my soul. When we surrender to our soul, there's nothing outside of us. The gold is within. There is nothing we don't know. A knowing, know meaning knowing. It's a knowing. We can have an entire understanding of something, of a person, an event, an experience. It's a knowing. It's the whole picture in a knowing, in a nanosecond. It is not, so I surrender to my soul because it knows all. Its source. It knows everything. It knows true north. It won't deviate. Ego, mind, personality, chatter, chaos, illusion, those run amok. And if we're in that lane, that's the experience we're going to have. So that, and let me just go to our two quotes before we finish up with these beautiful Sabian symbols. This first quote, "The universe is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper." And this is by a quote by Eden Philpotts. And there are shamrocks, there's a double rainbow, there's pots of gold in this image. It's all speaking to the fact that the universe is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper. It's about raising ourselves up to a higher octave instead of just laying in the gutter, basically, taking the cheap and easy route that says, oh, I didn't have to go and look or discern or whatever. I just saw it and just jumped on the bandwagon. And shadow aspect of Mars, using that kind of energy and heat and aggressiveness in a negative manner because you didn't bother to investigate. You didn't bother to discern truth. And thus you just perpetuated that. And it's a boomerang. You put it out, it's more of it's coming back to you. And so to that point of Mars increasing the heat, it just gets louder and louder and louder in that vein. To Ava's point, Mars in Cancer, when we put out truth, when it's in a way that may be received, that's without judgment and so forth, when it's done with humility, the magnification of the purity of Mars energy, of the divine masculine, boomerangs back, amplifies. It empowers in the most pure way. It strengthens, it heals in the most pure way. Because, of course, we need both. We need the purity of divine masculine and the purity of divine feminine in harmony, in balance, yin, yang. We need that in order to be our best selves. And when we traffic in that, it ripples back to us. That's the energy you want. So last but not least, this other quote, which I love, it says, "The gentle has its own power, like water dripping onto stone." So see, it doesn't have to be this aggressive, nasty, confrontational, welcome Kiki. It doesn't have to be that kind of energy and action. The gentle has its own power, like water dripping onto stone. That dripping over time will carve its own path, will reshape the hardness of stone. And they do so in harmony with one another. They become one with one another. So the hard and the soft become one. They become unified. They're working in unity. And look, the hard, the stone, the masculine receives it openly. So it's a beautiful dance, the dance, divine messengers of change. So let's go to our final aspect, which is the Sabian symbols. On our keyword, I missed that, is participation. The action or state of taking part in something, being related to a larger whole. So again, which wolf are you feeding? Because this is about participation. Am I participating in truth or lies? Am I participating in being proactive or reactive? It's about my participation. And thus, it becomes my fate because it's my character. So our choices can refine or define our character, which defines our fate, our experience. For the astrological chart for Jupiter retrograde, I'm going to focus on 3 or 4 of them very quickly, but the midheaven. So the midheaven is at the top in the chart. It's an auspicious celestial aspect. The cameo profile of a man, suggesting the shape of his country. The keynote is the sustaining power of the whole as the individual identifies themselves within their life. So it's about sustaining the power of the whole while we identify within ourselves. And we're looking for the gold. Looking back, we find the gold within. This is the avatar ideal, the ideal of a transpersonal life and consciousness totally consecrated to and directed by a divine power. This means a life dedicated to the soul leading. Soul source connection is leading. It is a life and consciousness totally consecrated to and directed by divine power. It's not the ego, my personality running the show. It's source through your soul. This power can also be conceived as the archetypal self, the Christ principle as it operates in and through an individual person and destiny who have become its outward manifestation to meet a collective human need. So it means like being the Christ self, and it's embodied, and we're literally putting it out there, and thus we manifest this for a human collective need. The concept of the formal structural identity of the universal macrocosm, so the universe is the macrocosm, and the human is the microcosm, is a very important one, and it manifests itself at many levels. It provided an inner sense of security and harmonic strength to archaic man. As above, so below. They looked, indigenous peoples, native peoples, everyone, the Greeks, they looked to the heavens to guide them. When you're, in native tribes, indigenous tribes, when someone is out of sync, they sing their name so that in essence, by the tribe singing their name, they bring that individual back to the center, to within, back into harmony. Because the unity of the group, of the tribe, is paramount. They can't have dis-ease. It will divide and separate the tribe, the unity. So it provided an inner sense of security and harmonic strength to archaic man. To the modern individual assailed by surface evidence of meaninglessness and futility. Think about these. The Sabian symbols by Dane Rudhyar, an astrological mandala of which these are are from the 1920s. They're 100 years old. To the modern individual assailed by surface evidence of meaninglessness and futility, it gives a feeling of participation in the vast tide of evolution. See, it's cheap and easy. I mean, how these symbols can speak about something 100 years ago, about the internet and social media and so forth today, is astounding. But it's also saying surface evidence, meaninglessness, and futility. When we don't search for the truth, when we don't traffic in the truth, it's meaningless, it's futile, and it's harmful. It goes on to say, it is the answer to the tragic sense of alienation so prevalent today. See, we feel divided and alienated as opposed to unified. To Olivia's point, the old generation and the young generation. There's a beauty here that says it's the answer to the tragic sense of alienation so prevalent today. He was speaking about the 1920s. It's now 2024. It's still prevalent, this division, this hate, this judgment, the trafficking of lies, the shadow. But this is where Jupiter and Chiron, Pluto, Mercury, the Purple Mountain Comet, they're all coming. These celestial bodies are coming, powerhouses, the unseen coming to us and saying, and it's this symbol characterizes the stage of participation in a greater life. They're asking us, they are imploring us to participate in a greater life. Not a life in the lake of fire that's in a dumpster fire that's meaningless and futile and negative, and it's not the point, and it's not what's on offer. It's about participation in a greater life. Ava's saying, oh, I love that. Singing someone back to harmony. Exactly. It's a beautiful, indigenous peoples knew. They were listening. They were going as guided and listening. And we have gone so far away from that root beingness, our connection, our soul source connection. Mercury, a child giving birds a drink at a fountain. The keynote, the concern of simple souls for the welfare and happiness of less evolved beings who thirst for life renewal. This is, we are only as strong as the least among us. So here, at this stage, what you received from the infinite, you can give to the finite beings that thirst for it. Man does not need to destroy nature's wilderness through greed and carelessness. They can transform this wilderness into a garden whose singing fountains will attract birds. We can use here, Mark Edmund Jones was an astrologer who worked with Elsie Wheeler on these original Sabian symbols. The key word is solicitude. But see, we can take from the finite and from the infinite and give to the finite. We can care for the least among us and create a magical garden. Limitless prosperity and abundance. The ascendant, deep sea divers, the keynote, the will to explore the hidden depths of all experiences and to search for primordial causes. This symbol essentially refers to depth psychology. It means doing the works, diving deep within to find ourselves, our soul source connection, a coming to terms with the collective unconscious and its contents. This type of depth plumbing adventure is basically different from the one symbolized by the gold rush, something that's external, for it can take place within the individual and with no relation to social value, nothing that's outside of us. It refers symbolically to a quest for understanding, meaning for what lies under the surface waves of daily living. What's on the surface, it's never what it is. It's never what it appears to be that's on the surface. It's not going to be the cheap, 2-second social media post that somebody didn't bother or that's just repeating a lie. That's cheap and easy. This is talking about what lies under the surface waves of daily living. What's the truth? What's underneath? This quest may lead to great dangers. It demands a strong will and good breathing, meaning a degree of spiritual strength. It means you got to be in your center. It means that you must be heart-centered in order, quote unquote, to see the truth. Not a truth or someone's truth or someone's lie. That's cheap and easy. That's on the surface. You got to move into your heart center, into this sense of spiritual strength to see truth and be able to accept it, whatever it may be. But the truth, not a truth or a lie. It usually challenges powers hidden in the depths of the unconscious. And it will. It will challenge us. It will trigger us. But the moral of the story is to traffic in truth. To see truth. Not to hold on to a lie at any cost or to, traffic it. To multiply it. Because you're only, again, harming yourself when it comes back to you. The contrast between deep sea divers and men of the gold rush is significant. It presents in an interesting manner the opposition between a first stage and a second stage symbol. The inward quest opposes the outward search for the great symbol or the great social symbol, gold. It should lead to a, quote, depth realization of the very roots of consciousness. So this is speaking to the fact that what should matter, what is truly the gold is the gold within. External gold, fool's gold, false gold. That is the difference between deep sea divers and men of the gold rush. One is I'm mining for gold within. The other one is I'm running about trying to find gold outside of me. And the only gold that truly matters is the one within. That's from which everything originates. That is where it will amplify and magnify and come back to you because everything's energy. Venus. A woman draws away two dark curtains, closing the entrance to a sacred pathway. The keynote, the revelation to the human consciousness of what lies beyond dualistic knowledge. This symbol reveals what a positive reliance upon faith and intuition can bring about. Courage is needed to go through the veiling darkness. We need courage at this time to go through this shaking to our foundation, to our roots. Because Pluto in Capricorn is bringing up the underbelly. It's exposing it all. And of course, they don't want to be exposed. They want to continue perpetuating that narrative, that energy. They want that control. So it requires courage. Courage is needed to go through the veiling darkness. The courage to venture beyond the familiar and the traditionally known. It means to have the courage to, quote, plunge ahead into the unknown. But see, the unknown is calling us forward. The unknown, it's light. It used to me smiling. It's light. It's bright. It's airy. It's like, it's abundant. It's limitless. So it says to us, have the courage to plunge ahead into the unknown because we already know, been there, done that. We already know what it is. So why would we choose that? And the only reason somebody would choose that is because they're afraid of the unknown. That's the only reason. What lies ahead is greatness. What lies behind, it's where we've been. Doesn't mean it didn't have greatness, but it's not it becomes stagnant because we've already been there. Everything is energy. And we know this, a stagnant pond, what happens? It becomes water, a body of water, it becomes stagnant. Then mosquitoes and infestation and so forth. It's no longer healthy for anyone or anything. But water that's moving forward, being filtered, this type flowing, it carries us. It leads to new adventures, new things. It's pure. It nourishes us. That's the point. And last but not least, because we're over time, a lot of fortune. A 5-year-old child carrying a bag filled with groceries. I love this Sabian symbol. The keynote, rising to the occasion when asked to assume social responsibility, ahead of one's normal development. This symbol speaks to the fact that we may feel like we're not ready for this advance. We may feel that we're afraid of the unknown and what may happen. And so it feels premature, or it feels like we're not ready. It's a child, a 5-year-old child carrying a bag of groceries. This fourth stage symbol, so it's foundational, evokes the possibility of meeting a certain type of social opportunity, which normally may seem premature. A pattern of accelerated growth can thus be established, with both positive and negative aspects. Rushing ahead of one's natural development may be damaging, yet we are living in a particularly dynamic period of man's evolution. And so we are all, no matter the age, no matter our age, it's about accelerated growth. We are advancing. Time is speeding up. The new lies before us. What lies before us, where we've been and where we're going. And so it's, again, the courage, accelerated growth. Just recognize that we're participating in this particularly dynamic period of humankind's evolution. And so it requires us, whether we feel ready or not, it requires us to take that leap of faith, to advance, to move us forward. Because where we've been, we've already been. There's more on the other side. I'm going to place all the Sabian symbols on the Dearjames Facebook page because they're amazing. So skim through them. And just thank you all for your presence. And on this journey, it's magical. Make room for change. Embrace change. We're going to have some peaks and valleys. We get to choose, because in that, again, with the houses, the point about that was that the house of self and the house of value and the house of communication are going to be challenged. Those are the valleys on that chart. Just going to bring it up really quickly one more time to close with this. Those are in the first, second, and third house. Those are going to be both challenged, and they're going to be our opportunity. And then the seventh, eighth, and ninth houses, relationships, resurrection, other people's possessions, legacies, and the house of spirituality, philosophy, greater wisdom. That's leading us. So it's going to reflect how the two, we need both. So how does the one, in this case, the peaks, the house, seventh, eighth, and ninth houses, how does it both challenge the first, second, and third houses and also inspire? And in reverse, how does the lack of these seventh, eighth, and ninth houses within us, within someone, become the opportunity magnified when we surrender the first, second, and third houses? When we take responsibility for self, when we moderate self, when we surrender to our soul. So you see this beautiful dance going on between Jupiter, Pluto, these first, second, and third houses, the seventh, eighth, and ninth houses, and this beautiful opportunity with Mercury, Chiron, and the Purple Mountain Comet, CHING, these divine messengers of change. They're offering truth and understanding. Choose the higher octave every moment. And when we fall short, it's okay. Just pick yourself up and rebound as quickly as possible so that you stay centered. You stay in the eye of the hurricane, no pun intended, because as this unseen has said, if we're out on the periphery, it's chaos. It's cataclysmic. You stay in the eye, it's calm, it's centered, it's safe. Wishing everyone in Florida a very safe experience here, hoping for the best and for all of us. And until then, be well, be kind, and look for the gold within. We'll see you next week.